Okay, let's go. Let's see if I got it going. Yeah, we got it going. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. I'm going to turn it over to our Jack to do our greeting.
Well, welcome to the Friday night call, everyone. This is our Constitution call, and we have Salty Toes here and Low Tide, and we have Mason and Miss Yoki's here too, and I'm RJ. So we are going to have the Constitution call. I'm not sure exactly what the subject will be tonight, but Mason will be presenting some information to us. So this is this is December the 6th, 2024. And so let's get started. Go ahead, Mason, and let us know what you're going to be talking about tonight.
Well, I've been involved in several court actions over the last couple of years, and one of them still ongoing. It's got to do with inheritance. And I was I got a couple of calls from people that are trying to purchase some of the property in the estate, but nobody seems to want to bite when they start finding out what this thing involves. So after I last little call the other night, I started just kind of cruising the internet, and all of a sudden I tripped over this website, and it said Victims Support Services. And I went, holy mackerel. It was like this little thing went off in my head, and it just dawned on me in that moment how pointed this subject is, and it encompasses virtually every single person, citizen. I don't care what country you're from or what your status might be, but this word victim applies to the private side that everybody has a right to. And I'm pretty sure there probably isn't one single person that could ever hear this call that isn't going to be able to pick out something in their life where they were the victim of the system. Now, this is this could turn into a pretty sizable number of people contacting the different agencies, of which there are many. There's the sheriff, there's the local police, there's the county board of commissioners, there's the state legislature, there's the governor, there's the president. There's you pick any one of the executive authorities, and even the legislative groups who are responsible for enacting the rules that protect the private side of our system. I didn't say they go out and legislate and say, okay, all you guys have these rights and everything's good. No, that's not how it works. They have been remiss for an entire length of our history of putting things in play, except for a few states, that actually identify and make provisions for the protection and the security of our privacy. And when I say privacy, I'm not just talking about your person. I'm talking about your home, your car, your bank account. I don't care what it is. If it's private to you and it belongs to you in your person, in your sovereignty, because every one of us is sovereign in that capacity, whether the system that you live under recognizes it or not. God knows the difference. So all these things are starting to come together now in a way that each and every one of us, because I already filled out 3 complaint forms last night, and uh, I'm going to continue with digging up more and more, say, agents or whoever you might want to call, from the sheriff on up, who are directly responsible for committing some form of a common law crime against the people. Now, you might ask yourself, what's a common law crime? Well, it's something that, in the king's vernacular, would affect his life, his liberty, and his property. Well, that's some pretty serious stuff. If you do that to the king, you'll have to wind up with no head. But what do you wind up with here? You get a tax bill or a summons or some other kind of garbage. So we've been hoodwinked most of our lives, most people have, about where the remedies are at for what I'm talking about. And that little trip through the probate court and a couple of websites that I tripped over opened a can of worms that I don't think it's going to be closed. So when we start thinking about what kind of a victim have any one of you been? Have you ever had a traffic ticket? Well, were you operating in a commercial capacity or were you operating in your private capacity? And the answer, I'm pretty sure for most of you, is no, you were just going somewhere to take care of your private business. Well, that's a crime in the common law against, and depending upon your status in the system, you might be a resident, you might be a sovereign, you might be just a visitor, who knows what. But the point is that if there was not a damage to someone else's life, liberty, or property during that little incident, then you were the victim. And you've been a victim in this little scheme of theirs since your birth. I'll give you a good one. There's some people on this call that are interested in mortgage stuff. Well, we've got the court cases. We got the principles. All it needs to do is a couple of little comments made with the exhibit to a particular agent or agency or mortgage company relative to the victim, which is you. You've been the act of what they call extortion. That's just one of the common law crimes that can be brought up here. Kidnapping is a big one. Every time you're told or forced to move from one place to another, I don't care if it's from your car to the trunk, you've been kidnapped. So these little pieces I'm going to start talking about right now are very powerful, and they all apply to the private sector, and they all apply to your personal life and your property or your life or your liberty. And those are the three key elements in all of this. I did a little digging, which I've done before in some of the so-called law dictionaries that we have, and I looked up. I just went online and put in common law crime, and there's a website. I think it's called Find Law, and I got this big paragraph about what they consider in the lizard world as common law crimes. I never read so much garbage in my life. Nothing in there had to do with the actual acts that would be called a crime against the people. It all had to do with, it's rules that's decided in a court and this and that and the other. And it's just a bunch of gobbledygook. It had nothing to do with the actual events that you have actually experienced in your lifetime with these different agencies. So this is not complicated. And once enough people start getting involved in this little thing, we've had a couple of people on the call that want to get involved with the mortgage stuff and all, and hey man, that's great, and that may bring about some results as this thing unfolds. But can you imagine, say, a K number of people and times 100 that are starting to wake up to the simpleness of filing a simple notice of what? Victim status, because you were either constitutionally prohibited from living in your house without paying taxes, or the mortgage company who has been paid, the system is not wanting to turn the house over to you and clear the title because you actually are the owner and the holder and the possessor, and the bank got paid with your check or with your promissory note. Your vehicles, same thing. If you got a loan with the bank got paid when you signed that note. And that's just a piece of it. So as we start to go through all of these little details about the different things in your life that you've been victimized in, no matter what degree, you have been the victim. All of these executive authorities, and I'm talking about all of them, the sheriffs, the judges, the bankers, your local police, the city councils, and all the statutes that have the word person on them, that are things involving you and your private rights, your life, your liberty, your property, that are penalties for persons who are commercial property, because that's who it applies to. It doesn't apply to you and your privacy. And I got a Supreme Court case that I don't think I posted this one yet, but it specifically says these words in it. The word person, the word person does not apply to the sovereign. Now, if you can think about that, what are they trying to tell you here? A person is identified as a mask on an actor on a stage, non-identified. You don't know who it is, what their status is, or anything about them. Well, you know who the sovereign is, because if he's in your face and he's telling you some stuff that you may want to pay attention to, depending upon his general attitude and his knowledge about his position, his place, his rights, you may find out very soon who the sovereign really is. And if there's a statute, code, rule, regulation out there that doesn't have the sovereign named specifically, it doesn't apply to him. And that's a fact. And the statutes can't apply to the private side anyway. They only apply to the commercial side. So this little exercise that just all of a sudden fell in my lap, like most of the stuff that falls in my lap, um, it was a very profound moment for me. And all I'm doing right now is I'm giving however many people are ready, willing, and able to take a step towards their victim, the victim events that they can lay out in their life. You know, I got a list a mile long, and I know most other people do too. They just didn't recognize them as things that were actually victims. They were the victim in the event. And like I said, anytime you got a so-called authority, a sheriff, a police officer, whoever it is that has stopped you for no just cause. Oh, you were going a little too fast? Yeah, where's the body? You ran a stop sign. Really? Where's the body? There's no victim out there. You're the victim. Because you just got fined for nothing. Because they say you violated their rule. Well, but you're the sovereign, or you have the right to travel. They don't have a right to stop you unless they have actual evidence of a crime that you've committed. And it has to be evidence. It can't just be hearsay. So we got a lot of little simple pieces to all of this when it comes to your rights, depending upon where you may live, you know, your particular system, the government that you have, which is going to bring up some more really interesting issues, because there are countries out there where the people are in the same boat we're in, technically. The only difference is that some of these, in fact most of them that I know of, they don't have any foundational documents that give them any real teeth when it comes to taking one of their so-called hierarchies and say, look, uh, during this time, the people became sovereign here. And what's been going on since then? Well, you people are all in trouble. Now, some of the countries that I know of, one particular, um, their stuff didn't start until after World War II, and it's still in a state of, we'll just say, monarchy. So it's going to be still up to people collectively coming together, just like this little group we got going here. I mean, I don't know how many people are listening to these calls, but I'll tell you what, if they're paying attention, they're going to be part of something that's going to be of extreme great importance to not only this country, because we're one of the founding groups of sovereignty when it comes to the people, but it's going to also affect all the other countries as well. And I know Trump is, you know, in spite of the fact that he may be elusive for most people, you know, he's trying to keep his head above water and keep his butt out of the line of fire. And but he's appointing people to certain positions that they may make a dent in where we're headed. But it's still going to take us, the private side, to get this ball rolling. And you can't just go stand on a platform somewhere and talk to a bunch of people hanging out because they went to a rally. Everybody gets and screams and yells, yeah, 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 and MAGA, whatever. I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And what do you do when you go home? You go have a beer or have dinner, or, you know, go out and feed your chickens or whatever you do. But what else are you doing? You're not making a difference for nothing. So this little rant of mine tonight uh, is well founded, is justified, and for all the people that have an ear to hear and have been involved in any way, shape, or form of getting in touch with themselves on that spiritual side, you're going to be waking up very shortly to some assignments that you may not have understood completely, but they're going to be as clear as a bell to you when you start looking at the different websites, and there's a bunch of them out there. If you just go in and type in a search for victim and start looking for all the different groups out there that are talking about helping victims, oh my God. Uh, and they're in every county, every city, every state in this country. And I don't know about the other countries, but I'm pretty sure that you're not going to have trouble finding something in your own town that relates to this very topic. So when you can look somebody in the eye and say, you know what, I'm afraid, I'm afraid to go out and get in my car and travel to the store without a license on my car and a special permissive license in my pocket, and yet I got, look at the statutes right here. They say I have a right to travel without that stuff. I have a right to an exempt plate. I have a right to some things here, and I'm the victim simply because I'm in fear of having to do these things that I have the documents that show I have the right to do them, and yet the system is going to persecute me if I get caught without these things that are not mandates upon me. They're only mandates on the commercial side of the things that are going on. I'm private completely. And even if I was commercial, I got a commercial vehicle to do my commercial work. I got a private vehicle to do my private work. That two different sides of the fence. The rules apply to the one and not to the other. So this is just one little piece of all this, and I'm hoping that some people on the call can, if you don't quite get everything I'm talking about, don't be afraid to ask some questions, and we can get some clarity right now before this call ends. So I'm going to turn this back over to RJ and Salty and whoever else might want to chime in.
Well, I heard a story just this week that applies to that 100%. There was a lady in North Carolina who lived in an apartment, and the apartment building was partially, um, I guess, partially torn up or something. Anyway, she has no place to go, and today she was being evicted. She had until today to get out of her apartment, and she has absolutely no place to go. And she was on the internet, explaining her situation, and that she's 66 years old. It's just her and her cat, and she does not have the money to move, and she does not have any place to move to. And they are evicting her today. So, and she was in tears. This was probably Monday or Tuesday when I saw the video.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, you take her and her little cat, multiply that times about 15, along with all animals and 50 years of everything you have, and you're kicked on the street, and you got no place to go. So if you think I don't understand what she's dealing with right there, I guarantee you I do. Now listen, in where she's at, she has a group somewhere in her area that is specifically identified on the internet as what I said in the first part of this. Victims support, what's the third word?
Services.
Victim support services. And she should be sitting on their doorstep. Now, I don't know what her status is. That's irrelevant at this point. But nobody in this country has a right to rent land to the people. Now, just how far she might be capable of taking that one little comment, I've brought this up before. Uh, our whole issue right now is we're trying to get a enforcement power to stand behind us who has an idea and knowledge and understanding about what our rights really are as opposed to what they've been led to believe we are. And I'm not saying that this thing's happening overnight, but it's going to happen as a result of more and more people standing up and understanding what their rights are and calling out those people who are violating those rights. And there's these agencies that claim, oh, yeah, we're here to help. Well, then get your ass out here and help us. Get the sheriff down here. Let's get some people involved in this thing that knows what we're doing and what our rights are and what their duties are. I posted that sheriff's handbook. I think it's on the website, and it's just one of those little pieces to the obligations that the sheriff has agreed to under his oath to protect and defend the citizens of the state domiciled in his county. And
But you
those
know
words are
what? You know what else? I'll bet that she was served with her eviction notice by the sheriff's group.
I
I have
understand,
a
huh?
feeling. Yeah.
We
So they're
I
not
was
really
too.
protecting.
I was too. I told you that was a hit and a half. But you know what? We're still standing. We're still surviving, and I haven't quit by a mile.
Yeah, yeah.
And thanks to Salty, we're able to get in this forum now and talk about these things and let the word get out there. But people have to learn how to stand up, honey. They can't just, go cry in a closet and say, "Oh, it's me." That's not what this is about.
Yeah.
And somebody somewhere will pick her up, give her a helping hand. If her heart's in the right place, I have no reason not to believe that. If she can somehow muster up in her own self the courage to accept the responsibility of where she's at and how she got there, that's the first step. You got to
Yeah, well,
thank the
she was
universe.
renting. She was renting, I have to say. She didn't own the property, but she had
Doesn't
a
matter.
contract, I guess, for renting.
Doesn't matter. Her rights will far and away supersede the rights of an individual, I don't care what his status is, to rent land to the people. That's a no-no from day one.
Hmm.
And there's statutes, there's laws governing all that stuff. The biggest part of this is going to be the karmic laws that people are going to start getting hit with, and then wonder what happened, how come, why me? And it's people like that are going to be hit the hardest because they've been doing the most damage. They just don't realize it. And I know a lot of people in that boat. Try to tell them, you guys, listen, the land is not intended to be speculated. You can't charge your fellow citizen for the privilege of living on the land that belongs to the people.
We have to learn how to think about things differently than what we were taught, that's for sure.
That's the
Because
whole point.
I never thought of that we own the land.
That's right. That land belongs to the people from shore to shore, from sea to shining sea, from Canada to Mexico. However it was acquired, purchased, stolen, I don't care. It still belongs to the sovereign people. And every other country on the planet is in the same condition with respect to their people. That's how this thing is. It's got to get around, and it is, till enough people are standing looking at the system and saying, no, not no, but hell no.
Well, that's got to be the worst thing that can happen to someone, that they have a
I get,
house or a place where they're
that's right.
living, and then they're evicted, or
I went,
they have
I
to
went
they're
through three
bankrupt
of
or
those.
something.
I went through
3.
three
Oh
of
my
those.
gosh.
Okay, and the system was totally upside down every time it did it. And yet, you think the system would listen to itself? No, that was the whole point. And so, because of all my previous lifetimes here and the karmic things that I was having to deal with, I was pushed to learn on a fast track of what I needed to learn in order to help other people learn the same stuff. And I had to do it with some level of compassion. I couldn't do it with a bunch of guns in my hand and wanting to shoot everybody. So this is not an easy road for most people, and I would never claim that it would be. But it's how you get the growth you need to be able to stand up, and that changes your environment. See, that's the thing that most people don't quite get, and there's nothing I can say that'll give it to them. But if you can't stand up and say no to tyranny, look you in the face, then you're never going to get the strength that it takes to be neutral to it. And the environment, your universe, isn't going to put any protection around you because you haven't gotten to the point where you're ready to do it for the whole. It's got to be for the whole. It can't just be for you. How many people are on this call, by the way?
Uh, looks like there are 4 participants.
4? That's it?
4. That 4. And then there's you and there's me.
We're
Uh-huh.
having trouble people trying to get on for some reason. I just got a message and they couldn't get into the room, so I'm helping some people. So
Okay.
Okay.
it's being recorded, so we'll get it out there also.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
Oh,
most
we have
important
5.
thing.
We have 5 now. 5 now besides us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, um, as far as the details of this is concerned, it's not complicated. Like I said, anybody can go online and look up victim uh, crime or victim
Support
support,
services.
or yeah,
Support
well, that's just
services.
one of them. That's just one of them.
Oh, okay.
Because I just started punching in agencies on victims, and I put several other words. I did all kind of combinations of things with victim in it, and I couldn't believe all the different groups there are out there, all over the place, that are specifically, supposedly, addressing victims specific. And when you can get one of the agents, whoever it might be, in the system to recognize your victim status with respect to those things that are most important to everybody, your life, your liberty, and your property, and you're being taxed, regulated, penalized, and sometimes booted out on the street from the very things you have a right to. Well, if that isn't victim, I don't know what you'd call it,
Absolutely.
including a simple stop by a cop.
I guess especially if he makes you get out of your car. That
Especially,
makes you a real victim there.
well, it started when he put his lights on you.
Yep.
Didn't start when he got you out of the car. What'd you stop me for? Well, like I said, where's the body? See, this country is specifically dealing with common law crimes, which is someone has damaged your life, your liberty, or your property. Those are common law crimes. And it isn't something that's been satisfied in a court somewhere because this country is unique on the planet. I've mentioned this before. Our common law is not about subjects versus the sovereign, the king. This system is operating between sovereigns, not under sovereigns. So the same principles that have been shoved down everybody's throat, especially the attorneys, the law firms and all, from all of their double talking, double speak stuff about the codes, rules, and regulations, does not apply to the people in this nation. We're unique on the planet. And people are going to wake up to this at some point. There's been a lot of cases that have already been filed. Go ahead. Who was that? Hello?
I, I
Who
don't
was
know
that?
who that was.
Go ahead, HC.
Unmute
You've been low
yourself,
touch.
whoever it was, and go ahead and speak.
One of the things that you have covered, Mason, is why are we here? We're here to better ourselves, to better the world. And we gotta, if people would just get on the buddy system grab a pal and say, "Hey, RJack, I'm gonna go listen to this call. Join me." And then it's interesting. So we're gonna go grab another buddy. Say low tide. He's gonna think, "Well, that is inspiring. I didn't know that." He's gonna go grab Miss Okie. That's gonna grab Allison. That's gonna grab a buddy. This is enlightening, and it's all for you. Mason's here to teach us the steps. What are the first steps that he talked about? Is you got to get your mind right. You got to get your mind right. So get with yourself of who are you and why are you here, and how can we do this together as a group and be better. We have laid out documents that he's got and Jim on the Google Drive, which you can just click the link, Mason or Jim's file, and there's all those files. There's one step. Another step is listen to the YouTube calls. If you want to, listen to them several times. Engage in the calls with us. Say, Mason, you lost me at hello. I don't have a clue what you meant about the sheriff. Am I supposed to go baking cookies or pinching? I'm confused. It's okay. I'm a landlord. I own an apartment building. I've got a tenant that hadn't paid their rent in 6 months. What am I supposed to do? All right, I own a house, but how do I own the land? What am I supposed to do if I can't pay? What about mortgages? He has covered a lot of these things and a lot of the questions on the calls. The replays on YouTube have been phenomenal. How many people want to listen? Grab a buddy and come over here and ask your questions together. We don't know all the answers, but you know what? We're going to find out together.
Yeah,
And being
exactly.
victims, we've all been a victim, like he said. So jump in and show us, tell us when you've been a victim or your questions. We're here to help. Thank y'all a bunch.
Absolutely.
Hush, somebody else just heard.
If any of y'all have any questions, please just unmute yourself and please ask a question, because Mason is here to kind of guide us and lead us into the right direction that we need to go if we've been a victim.
Mason, how did you get on this journey to start with? What was it that you were doing in your life that inspired you to go into this deep dive? And then what was it that inspired you to go out there and share it with others?
All right. My wife and I were both kicked onto the street out of her willed acre and a half of land with horses, chickens, dogs, cats, because of her criminally minded sister and her sick dad, who willed the place to her. uh, so that thing it's a real dirty situation. It's come out of a whole lot of emotional strife, especially for her, and but she's learned to get over it. And so finally, without even knowing her father had passed, 6 months later we find out, and so we decided to file a probate. Well, my job isn't necessarily to do the things with the system that the system enjoys or thinks it has the right to do. My job is to show these people where they've erred and how to fix the problems that exist in the system with respect to the entities, the judges and the sheriffs and all. And I call them out on all the details: your citizenship, who you work for, the communist rules that you're enforcing. I go down the list in my filings and my documents, and this stuff gets sent to a bunch of different people. And the next thing I know, we got a hearing, and the judge is saying, well, talking to my wife, says, well, are you bondable? I'm like, what? The daughter already committed a felony by um, coercing, bribing a notary to falsify a power of attorney. So that was the sheriff's job. The sheriff do anything about it? Nothing. The court was supposed to issue a, have you ever heard of a writ of habeas corpus? That document was filed and served on the court and was supposed to be executed to show the power of attorney that the sister supposedly acquired from her non-compos mentis mother, who they put in a mental institution. So all of these little pieces led up to this final little call that I got the other day about some group that wanted to give us part of the money from the estate. And so I'm saying, okay, let me talk to these people. Well, they called and didn't go very far. And I just said, this is another one of those goof things that isn't going to go anywhere, and it didn't. And so all of a sudden, I'm looking because I already filed a judicial uh, performance complaint against the judge. His name was Gus T. May. He's a so-called judge under the dark side over at the Stanley Moss Courthouse in Los Angeles, Superior Court. And he literally denied the writ of habeas corpus. He wouldn't hear it. And I'm like, in my head, I'm saying, you snake, you can't deny a writ like that. You got to produce the documents, the evidence that gave you or the person who committed her mother to that mental institution. You got to see the documents and how she got them and who signed them. And that was a big part of it. But he went off in left field. So we filed a counsel on judicial performance complaint against. It took about 4 months for these other criminals to come back and say, oh, we don't see no wrongdoing here. I'm like, oh boy, okay, let's see where we go next. And so that was what prompted that little me looking to see, am I going to file a suit against the judge specific? Am I going to file it against the counsel on judicial performance specific? And I'm going through my head and I'm looking around, I'm going on the internet, I'm looking at different things, and all of a sudden this victim thing jumped up in my face. And I'm like, oh boy, and the bells, all the whistles and bells went off. I saw, man, everything that happened to me in my whole life, I've been in the victim category, and most everybody else that I might know has been there too. And so I've already filed a claim in that with that group on the internet. There's a form you just fill out and you put in some information about your situation, what happened to you, and then send it off. I'm waiting for a response back, but I'm not going to wait much longer, and I'm going to go moving on into another area, which also has to do with a Treasury Department, because there's things in there that most people don't get, but we've been victimized there from almost day one. So that's just where I'm at right now, guys, and all I can tell you is that I don't quit, and I'm going to keep going until the can of worms not only opens, but the bottom falls out, and that's where this is headed. So if you're, not too keen on what you might want to do, you might just sit quietly for a while and listen to your sound current, ask a question. What's my step here? These are how things happen. And every one of the topics that I've talked about on this channel, ever since I met Salty, it's been I get this inkling all of a sudden of something that came to me, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, there's the next topic. It just I don't go try to sit around and think up stuff. It has to be in the time, the right timing. It's all about the timing, and everything that's going on around us, everything is fitting into place. So in spite of I know there's people out there that are having trouble. You think I don't know what trouble is? I got news for you. Uh, so if you're having an issue with this, you're going to learn to get quiet with it. You're going to learn to get on the right side of it, inside your own personal self. Make contact with the other side. Everybody has access. Everybody has the ability. It's just being willing to sit down and take the time. And it doesn't take a lot of time. You do it before you go to sleep at night. But I usually get my inputs while I'm in the middle of something, and then I just kind of stop and ask the question, and all of a sudden there's the answer. So everybody's going to get it different ways, but
Okay.
we're all common in this.
So Mason, can I ask a question about um, information? Where is a good place to seek information concerning deeds of trust and mortgages in our
Huh?
particular state?
In your state? Um, you mean Missouri?
That's where I live. Yeah.
You mean the Show Me State?
Yep. Yeah.
All right, listen, low tide. The law is the law. I don't care what state you're in. Deeds are not title. And I must have 50 cases on the subject. If I got to post all this stuff for you guys so that you'll see I'm not just trying to blow smoke,
No,
uh, I'll
well,
do
I
it.
know you're not.
The
I know.
point, the point I'm getting at is that you signed a note and you paid for your mortgage with that note.
Mhm.
And that case, that Jerome Daly case, says it's specific. And the other case I posted, if you go read that, it's a fairly long case. That's the oh, what was that last one I stuck in there, Salty? Missouri? No, not Missouri. Was it Missouri? I think it was.
Last
uh,
week you did mention in reference to a case that was in Missouri last week or 2 weeks ago or so.
that's the case. Yes, that's the case, and there's several important things in there. Number one, that's the most important comment made by the court in that case is that this: you cannot use any written document in the form of a payment that's made out of paper. Did I stumble when I said that? No. No bonds, no promissory notes, no checks, nothing in paper because it's not money. A promise to pay something isn't the thing. It's just a promise. It has no value to it whatsoever unless the person you make it out to takes and deposits it and puts it into a system where they've somehow managed to scam the whole world into accepting paper, notes, promissory, and all the other garbage as money. So this is not rocket science. This isn't some complicated bunch of baloney. You know, that gold and silver clause is as solid right now in our Constitution as it's ever been, and it's not going away. And in spite of all of these other felonious acts that are going out there with all this Bitcoin and all this other junk that they're trying to shove down people's throats, it's just like that promissory note. It's not the thing. And in this country, there's a lot of people going to get hung over their manipulation of our monetary system, if they haven't already. I know there's a bunch of people who have gone down. I think Yellen stepped down supposedly. She's already been dealt with. But this whole thing is getting ready to blow up in a whole lot of people's face. And as I've said before, you know, the timing is everything, and more people need to at least take a step towards the problem instead of trying to run from it. And that's when you find out what's going on. That's how you get the help. The universe is ready to help anybody who's willing to do something for the universe. That's crazy. That's just the nuttiest thing I ever heard of. And yet I can give you examples all day long, my own personal experiences in life, that that's exactly what's happened. You know, looking down the gun barrel, man. What
Yeah.
are you going to do? You're going to shoot me because I don't move? You know? Uh, they
Well,
didn't have to.
I mean,
But the point
personally,
is,
yeah.
the
Go.
point is that each of us is going to have to decide where we're going to draw the line. I'm not telling you you just got to stop making your mortgage payments. I'm not telling you you just got to do this or got to do that. These are things you're going to have to decide on your own. Now, with this little issue that just came up tonight in our discussion about it, you know, are you a victim in all of this? You damn right you are. You're a victim in everything that's happened to you your whole life. There isn't anything you've been able to do that you didn't have to get permission from some so-called authority to do it, whether it be a license, uh, you know, permission, whatever. And like I said, the deed thing, that's a big one because the deed is what is taxable. That's the taxable instrument, and it's not title. You can't tax title. It's a color of title. And I found all that stuff when I was dealing with my wife's house that we got kicked out of. That was hers by the will. You know, so and it was unmistakable when I discovered it all. It's right there in the California statutes. You know, and then I also went down the list and showed what they did from the beginning of the statehood, California has, every time they sold a piece of land, the first person that touched it was a surveyor general. Hmm, what's that about? That's about a meets and bounds. That's about the universal description of a piece of dirt on the planet. Once he surveyed it, he was supposed to turn that over to the first executive authority in line, which I believe was the Secretary of State, and they would get a land patent drawn up that would then go to the governor for signature. And it would had to be paid in gold and silver. Hmm. So right off the bat, we had the foundation of a sovereign nation working, even though the patent isn't necessarily the allodium title, because if the person buying it isn't a sovereign, there is no title involved, just a color of title. If it's a deed, you're a tenant, which is exactly how they identify you. So these are the things that have transpired over many, many years of different states in this country that most people don't even have a clue about. But, I've been blessed with other things that I've learned and that I know and I've been able to get answers to. And I've been through all the hard knocks. So there ain't nothing you could tell me about that I couldn't give you some kind of an experience or reference to what you might consider doing with respect to your situation. And as this victim thing showed up in my face, and it's just like it hit me with a bolt, man. It just said, holy crap, man, the whole planet's in this condition. Everybody on it. I don't care what level you're at. You're a victim at some level. All you got to do is pick out the little pieces, identify it, and then ask your local sheriff, hey, man, can you see that this statute says this? This is what it says. I remember when I showed the right to travel issue statute to the sheriff in L.A. Sat right there at the lunch table, and I laid the statute in his face. And he read the statute and said, wait a minute, are you kidding me? You mean to tell me I have a right to an exempt plate for my private vehicle? I said, what does it say? Read it. And he read it, and he said, I don't believe this. But where do I get mine? I said, yeah, right. Board of Equalizations. If you think you could go in there with a gun and make them give you one, hey, man, I'll be right there with you. But see, this is the kind of stuff that they can't negate. The laws are on the books, man. The stuff is written. The court cases are a mile long with respect to your rights. And, if I got to sit down and try and go back through all my stuff and dig out each case that fits each person's significant problem, I could probably do that, but that's not necessarily my job here because I didn't have somebody doing it for me. And everybody's got to learn to stand their own ground sooner or later. It doesn't mean I'm not going to point you in a direction. You want to know? I'll point you.
Well, it is all very intimidating, and
No kidding.
it seems
Yeah.
it seems like we're a David and Goliath kind of situation where um, we're up against a giant and fighting just not only our inept knowledge that we possess, but just maybe years and years of I guess past practice that people have piled up on the system and lived with it, and they assume that, well, you volunteered, you signed, and this or that, and you don't really have any cause to complain about your situation, and you're saying we do,
I'm
and
not saying it. The universe is saying it. Low tide, listen. If I can't get anything across to you other than this one little piece of it, the universe is only interested in people that are willing to stand up and say no. Because if you can't do that,
Yes.
then you're just going to have to go back and sit at the back of the class and wait until you grow something that'll help you stand up and say no.
yeah,
I don't care what degree it is. It doesn't matter. And we're in such an unbelievable time right now because the system is caving in. I can't tell you how many different people I've met in the last 6 months who've gotten all kinds of felonious letters from different agencies like the IRS. Oh, if you don't pay this tax, you don't file this form, and I said, and I just look at them. I said, Well, why don't you call and make an appointment? Take your forms and go down there and make an appointment to see this guy face to face. Get his ID number and his name and all. You know, they don't want they don't either don't do it, or if they make the call, they can't get an appointment. I said, you know what? You don't get it. The system is caved in already. Their enforcement powers are in the toilet. If you got a judge that's kicking a lady out on the street with her cat, I'd be all over that judge's face. But that's me. And she's going to sit there and cry on her doorstep and wait for somebody to come along and save her. I don't know. She don't have family or nobody, I guess. You know, but that, and I'm not trying to make an excuse for her situation because no excuse is going to stop what's happening except for the people themselves. So, like it or not, um, it's about self-preservation here. And if you find yourself in a victim condition, there's all kinds of places that you can go to at least bring the attention of your situation to some more people. The more people that realize what's going on, the more chances that we got for the system to turn. It's like a wave, and this wave started a long time ago. You know, I kept wondering when I was going to get to the top of the wave. Well, we're close.
One one foot in front of the other, just one step at a time,
That's
and
all it is.
progress just takes time. And
That's right.
I suppose you will look back and be amazed at how far we've traveled up this road, and get stronger every day because of the struggle.
That's it. That's what does it. And just don't be afraid to take a step. You know, just because you can't see what's on the other side doesn't mean you're not protected when you take the step. Because that is the biggest key to all this. Taking the step.
Yeah.
You can't sit back and whine about it. You got to step towards it, no matter how scary it may seem in a moment. The help is there waiting for you to take the step.
Well, thanks for people like you.
Well, it takes more than just me, buddy, because without the rest of you, I'm on my way. I'm doing what I got to do for me. It just so happens that everything I'm doing is also for you guys. All you got to do is get on board. The train's leaving, man. The gangway is standing there. So, is there any more specifics that I might give you? I know we got the deed. It's a color of title. Remember that. And I guess when I get in the house, I'll pull out the one file that I have on that because when I found that file, it was pretty amazing. There must be I don't know 50 references to cases in our system where title was brought up, and every one of these particular cases that was discussed in this document I have, they all had one fatal flaw. None of these deeds ever reached what they call the allodium. That means the true title. And the reason is because a deed of itself is not title. And if you want to look at the land patent, the only reason that it has the elements of the title is because it has a metes and bounds on it. The patent itself is not the title. It's also color of title if it's not being held by the sovereignty. And that's another court case. So these are not complicated issues. And the courts have been, I'll just say, remiss when it comes to giving this information out in a way that the legislatures are required by law to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But they haven't been doing it because they've been guided by a different group of people that took us over in the very get go. The Jesuit order has been around for a long time, and they haven't gone away completely. But they're getting hammered on. And you make sure you got your chickens in a warm place tonight.
Don't bring up a sore subject.
Well, mine are all buttoned up.
I
But
don't have the heater going. If
all
that's
right,
what you want to know, I don't have the heater going. But
well, what are you
um,
waiting for?
I'm. It got down to
Hey,
14 degree. It got down to 14 degrees last night in my neighborhood,
uh huh.
and
Yeah,
you
that's
read what
okay.
happened. You read what
I did,
happened when they got
and
left locked out. But
I feel for the kids, and I admonish you because you weren't more attentive to their needs. Shame on you.
oh lordy, I
Oh
I didn't
Lordy.
I didn't catch it till 9:30,
Oh,
and that's
wah
like
wah wah.
pretty late. But they were scattered. They were scattered. I
Oh
couldn't go
man,
out and look around for them. But
it's all right.
I have put them to bed tonight, and I'll check them
That's good.
again before I retire. But thanks for asking.
That's okay. And my love to all of them because I know that they're very important, and most people don't realize the importance of chickens. But yeah,
Well,
they're one of God's little creatures that were specifically put here for man to enjoy and to love and to benefit from.
yeah,
And I don't mean eat them.
yeah. Well, I'm still missing and looking for a guinea, and she's very important in my scheme because we live around sea ticks and chiggers and things like that,
Oh
and
yeah,
they are very good at seeing those things and cleaning them up. But I'm missing her right now, so I'll have to go out and look for her again.
yeah. Well, I don't want to waste any more of the valuable time that some people may need in order to start getting a handle wrapped around this call tonight. And I noticed that Salty posted the sheriff's handbook. I believe that's at the top of the page here. And it's got some very powerful court quotes in it that deal with people. And if nothing more, it'll at least give you a little bit more input from the law side of what the sheriffs are supposed to be doing, even though you're the only guy that can enforce that. So the more of these victim complaints that we get filed in more places, uh, the more attention it's going to bring. Like I said, just think it spread like wildfire. You never know how quick something like this can go, especially when people see how little they have to do in order to acquire it. That's the beauty of it. That was the thing that got my attention the quickest was, oh man, all you do is sit down and fill out this little form, and then wow, and then pass it on to somebody else.
Well, I know for a fact there's a ton of people that live in North Carolina that have been they
Oh
are
boy.
victims. They are
Oh
victims, and,
yeah.
and there's one place where there some tiny houses were donated, and the county would not allow them to move in. They said they
I
were
know.
not worthy, but yet they're living in tents. That little house would be so much better than a tent in terms of keeping them warm and safe. And my gosh, those people are victims.
I know. I,
They're,
I've heard all
that
the
you can't
stories.
say anything else but that they are victims.
Yeah.
And
You
they
see,
they also are due some kind of protection by the government, and the government has done nothing.
that's the nature of our system. We've all
I
been in that
know.
situation, and that's why there's some that have a whole lot more, I'll say, karmic experiences than others. There's no way you can just justify one over another because we're all in the same boat here. We're all on planet Earth, right? And
Yep.
some of us are working our way through the maze, and others are just going down with the ship. They got no choice. They'll be back, and you're going to see a whole lot of them that are have been involved in this stuff that are definitely on the return trip. So try
Well, I
not to
wish there
beat
was some
yourself
way
up
we
over.
could. Oh, go ahead.
I say trying to beat yourself up over all those people that are absolutely unhelpable. There's just some things you can't do, and and there's no pointing fingers. It's just that you're not put in a position of being able to help people that are not helpable by you.
Look what happened to Jesus.
Yeah, well, that's another whole issue involved here. But take care of yourself, number one. Be the best example you can be for those around you, and then let them be an example around them. That's how this thing gets out there.
Well, I wish there was some way we could get this information to all those people that are victims in North Carolina because they could use some help.
Well, we've
You know,
taken the
this.
first step. We made the recording.
Well, that's true. That's true.
So, so outside of that, it's going to take some other people passing it on
Right.
because you can't go from door to door and try to tell people what they need to hear. That's not how it's done.
I know. I know. Unfortunately.
No, fortunately, that's a principle. That makes everybody responsible because you don't want to be responsible for people that are irresponsible. That's
That's
just some
true.
hard. That's some hard knocks you're going to have to learn. So the lessons are not easy. Life is not some cakewalk.
Well, let me ask, is there anyone else here that has any questions about what Mason has been presenting tonight? Because this is, I mean, we are all victims. And if you have any cases where you have been a victim, or if you don't know that you're a victim, go ahead and ask some questions. Unmute yourself and just ask, because that's why Mason's here tonight.
Well, I must have covered all the victims.
Well, you did cover a lot, but there, this stuff about
Well,
being stopped by a
the
policeman.
simple.
I mean, I would have never thought of that as being a victim, but I guess it is.
You are. Every time you're being addressed by the system with something that you have the private right to do, everything, I don't care what it is. You have the right to walk on the sidewalk. You have the right to travel in your automobile down a city street. You have a right to buy food at the grocery store. See, and those things, none of those things I'm telling you right now are taxable. You also have a right to a home, a domicile, a piece of property to grow your vegetables. That's not taxable. It's not something that the system has the right to charge you to be in or to live there. All these are rights in this country. So those are the things that you're being victimized because you aren't getting it for what you're entitled to. You're having to pay, 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 and pay and perform. And every time that has to happen in order for you to be able to exercise one of those little simple little private rights that you do every day, how'd you like to have to sit down when you go to the bathroom, have to sit down and put a silver dollar coin in a slot to get a roll of toilet paper? I mean, I can think of things that blow people's brain when it comes to controls. And I must have been in that position at one point in time. Because there are think tanks out there that they do just that. They try and figure out just how long a product is going to last before it breaks. Now, what the hell is that about? They're trying to get every nickel, every penny out of the people who buy their junk before they have to buy it again. Over and over and over. Yeah, that's the nature of the system. And that's why we're moving into this whole nother world right now. But we got to get through what we're doing right now in order for that to unfold. And everybody's invited. How many are going to take the trip? I don't know. That's not up to me. I'm just the messenger. Have you heard that one before?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Can't walk your walk for you. All I can do is walk my walk and let you see if you want to fall in line with it. And the more difficult it is for you, the more important it would be for you to take the steps. 'Cause I know what those are like. Well, I'll tell you, there's no fun there. But it wasn't intended to be. It's intended to build your muscle, build your spiritual muscle. Get that third eye working.
Well, would you just explain the that VSS victims support services again, and
Well,
tell me how is that going to help you, because you already know what your rights are, and I know that you
that
know
is the
where to
whole
go
point.
and what to do.
No, no. I followed my, I followed the steps that I was given ever since I can remember. But I was always willing to take the next step. And if I didn't know what it was, I would ask the question. And I always got the answer. I always got led to the next step. Now, all these steps I've taken throughout my lifetime, uh, I can't think of one of them that was easy or that would the average person would even consider trying. But that's not me. I know why I'm here, and I'm taking the steps. Just if nothing more than as an example for those that are also at a point where they're ready to take a step. But they're going to have to learn how to ask the same questions I asked. They're going to have to learn to get the truth, the answer from inside themselves, which is the only place that the answers are credible. I can tell you till the cows come home. It don't mean they're true. You only know they're true when you get them. They come from a place inside you that you know that's the answer. Then you know you're in the protected zone. That's a difficult one for most people. That protected zone is there. It's always been there. It'll always be there. But it takes you to activate it. And you can't do it by sitting back and crying about your situation.
Take
So
some
that
hard
little,
steps is what we need to
yep,
do. Hard
this is
steps.
hard. This is hardball. This is hardball. You can't get, you can't get into a God state by hanging around with a bunch of devils. I don't know what to tell you there. Now, you asked me a specific question about this victims support services. It's a website that I just happened to click on as I was looking for other stuff. But when the word victim showed up in my face, that little thing inside just said, that's it. And I'm like, oh boy. And I knew then, oh, the planet's full of us. We're all victims here. But we were also on the other side of the fence, too. So when you start looking at someone else and pointing a finger, be careful how hard you point, because you're not going to be too far from where the problem is, which is in the mirror. You just haven't seen yourself there yet. But it's okay, because at some point you will, and you'll be able to forgive yourself because you'll know from whence you came. And that's the hardest part. Forgiving yourself from where you came from and the things you've already done in previous times that got you where you are right now. But you're the example right now as a result of all those things. And you're here to help other people do the same thing. And the freedom is in the doing. It isn't in the hiding. And the protection is right there alongside you. So, got to get some of these little principles are there. They're hard. They're solid. And you're only going to learn them by taking the steps. If you can't take the steps, that's okay. You'll have to do it some other time. You're not ready. And I know a lot of people that aren't, but there's nothing I can do about it. I can't beat on them for it. I can't force it down their throat. I can't coerce them. No, none of that. All you can do is be the example for the things you're telling people. And that's the best you've got to give them, is your example. And then they'll learn to be their example. And then it gets passed on. And that's how this family grows. And believe me, we're all in the same boat when it comes to that. There isn't a living thing on this whole universe that isn't part of the family. So anything else I can help?
Well, I want to say welcome back, John. You look like you sound. I think you started to ask a question before when you were here, and if you still have a question, go ahead and ask Mason because that's why he's here. All you have to do is unmute and start asking.
I see you, John, but I don't hear nothing.
Yeah, he's listening right now.
Okay.
And he did step out, so maybe he feels like he missed something, but he's
All right.
back.
Yeah.
And
Turn the blue mic to green.
All right, can you hear me?
yes,
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
oh. Well, obviously I'm new to the group. A very interesting conversation was led here by a friend, and I'm here to listen and pick up more insight. And I'm a homeowner, so this last conversation was pretty intriguing. Obviously, I'm not abreast with everything that they're keeping from us or stealing from us, but I'm definitely going to stay on board and listen and get educated.
Well, they
Okay. Well,
definitely are
you gotta,
taking all of our money. That's for sure.
yeah, you gotta pick your fight. It'll come to you. You'll know which one it is. It's the biggest one you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of those, right?
Well, you only need one. One will get you started.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's when you focus on that one, and then you pay attention to your inner self and the sound current. Ask little questions as you go. Don't be afraid to engage the problem. Walk towards it, not away from it. I don't care
Yes.
if you got to go buy a book or look at an internet or watch a movie, or you'd be surprised how many principles that the lizards have put in the movie system over the last 100 years. It's amazing. But there's a very interesting stuff there. But all it's intended to do is to give you that little piece of wisdom and the strength to take a step towards the problem. And
Right.
that's when your growth begins, and that's when the answers that you need will come to you, and that's when your protection zone will enlarge.
Got it. Thank you.
So, so John, Salty has put a link in the Telegram rooms, and I think it's in this very room where she has listed um, Mason the Taskmaster and his links, and uh, that gives you a downloadable set of documents, and it's I don't know, I think it's nearly 30 documents that it's grown up to, and then that refers to a lot of the YouTube um, chats and recordings as well. So there's an abundance of information that you can access at your fingertips if you just want to spend the time to read it and learn it. And it's very good stuff.
Okay. I'll make sure I tap in and click the link and browse around. Thank you.
Right.
And I know we have people on this call also that, or at least I think, Allison, uh, I was on here and she still might be. I haven't scrolled down, but she has already changed her status. And um, Mason did go over how to do that, as well as Jim. Jim's not on the call tonight, but he also can lead you into uh, changing your status. But Mason's is a much it will help you grow. The way Mason tells you to change your status. It will help you grow spiritually and move from the 3D to the 5D ascension, which I've heard a lot about, but I'm trying to get there. We'll see.
Hmm.
And Mason, if you, I'm not sure if John heard all of that information. It looks like he might have stepped out off of the call again. But for anyone that did not hear that information, you might want to go over that again. How to just get started of just changing your status. The first thing you should do.
Well, there's an example in the document room called Nebraska ID, and that little document was created by an individual privately and served on the Secretary of State, the state of Nebraska, and the Secretary of State actually authenticated it, put the state seal on it, and signed it. And that little ID that he got is a literal, you could call it a diplomatic ID. And I went through the same process early on back in the 90s. And of course, I lived in California, and they weren't having any of it. So I made my own. I also used the state seal and authenticate all my documents on my signature line. So there's also a um, no trespass sign. It's not no trespass is what it says, but it's a foreign soil sign, warning. If you're standing on this property, you're standing on foreign soil. And that was probably one of the first things you'd want to take care of and get that thing made up and not only put it on your house, on your car, you can carry it in your pocket if you want. You can also put your name to it and record it at the county recorder. That'd be novel. There's all kinds of little things that's out there that for anybody that wants to take a step towards themselves and deal with this system as you were intended to in the very beginning of whatever your life's endeavors have been, which is to acquire and attain and exercise your freedoms, your life, your liberty, your property in a private scenario according to the sovereignty. And it's not complicated. Most people do it every day of their life, but they're afraid to do it without paying a tax or getting a license or putting a plate on their car or some other form of, let's just call it extortion, which is exactly what the system has been doing this whole time. Then go about claiming your victim status with your local sheriff and who knows who else. Because it's their job to protect you in all these things. But it's your job to tell them what they need to do to protect you. Because they're not going to do it at this point in time. They haven't up to this point. They've been following a different agenda. And that's why we're doing what we're doing right now. And people are having to learn how to stand up instead of running and hiding. So the courts are ours. The sheriff works for us. All these employees, they're all employees. They work for the people. They don't work for, except for the fact that they're not of us, which is why most of the people are not of us either. They just got to figure out what they are and get changed, work their way out of that, get their mindset, start acting in a sovereign capacity rather than a taxpayer status. And this is the time. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This is the time, and it's not a forever thing. This period, the last 5 years, going into the next couple of years, is going to be very, very challenging for most people. If you're ready, step forward, get on board, take a stand towards the right side instead of all the crummy things that you've heard about and the criminal justice system and all the rest of them that have been suppressing us all this time. So quit being a victim and stand up and at least report your victim status, and not the status, but the victim events that have taken place in your life, and I'm sure you've got a whole bunch of them I don't know anybody on this call or anybody else that doesn't have a whole ton of things of being victimized. Because everything you do in your life that is a right, a sovereign right, life, liberty, property, everything you do that you've been taxed, fined, regulated, controlled, everything has made you the victim. You need to learn how to put that down in a one-page form. In fact, there's only about 5 lines it took me to list almost 50 years of the most serious of all of those victim issues. And then pass it along.
Well, I do see a couple more people join the call, and if you have any questions about your sovereignty or being a victim to the system, and you'd like to ask Mason some questions, please just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask. Or if any of you have any cases where you have been a victim and you just want to speak about it, go ahead and do that as well. Well, and we don't have any takers, Mason. Do you have anything else you'd like to share tonight?
Well, I can't think of anything right off the top of my head. I'm out here with the chickens now. It's warmer in there than it is outside. Uh, all I can say,
Well,
guys, is it's it's going to be a long, hard winter for all those people who aren't willing to do something about their situation. And I don't point fingers. I just identify events, things that most people have been unwilling to do up to this point in time. And I say this: it's never too late. Because depending upon who you are, where you're at, where your head's at, what you've had to deal with in your lifetime, and people around you, your family, and all this. I mean, it's all part of it. So, it's never too late to step up and start at least considering how you should do things rather than what you've been told to, and the crazy things the government has managed to force you to capitulate in, including all those things we've talked about already, at least 10 times. So, never too late. Stand up. It'll get you started. Even if you don't finish it this lifetime, you'll be glad the next time you come around because you'll be ahead of the game then. That's the interesting part. I know from whence I came, and it's like, here I am. Oh boy, why? Yeah, I know. I got told all that stuff. It wasn't kind, but I'm the creator of my universe, so who am I going to complain to?
well, I can say that you have learned a lot, and we appreciate you sharing with us.
And that is why I'm here. So, if anybody else needs whatever little bit you might need to get you started, I think we've already covered the basics, and it just takes a first step. Remember, so you're afraid to
That's the
put that
hardest
posting
step.
up, and you're afraid to put that posting up, or send it to the sheriff, and send it to the governor and your attorney general, and go after your proper ID, or make your ID, get the state seal, and use the darn thing. It's yours. Belong to the people. Don't belong to the system. Don't belong to the government. The Secretary of State only has that to authenticate our authority. Huh. Well, that's funny. And yet
Hmm.
everybody's got to get a notary for something. And it's like, I don't think so. The king don't need a notary to notarize his stuff. He's got his own seal. Well, so do we. So what are you afraid of? Uh, you can imagine the number of stories I've heard about that. Oh, you can't do that, really? Okay, well, that's why I never went to jail over it, because you can't do it. So
That's
you
right.
learn who
You've
you
been
are.
real strong.
You learn
No,
who
go
you
ahead.
are. You learn who you are. You learn what your rights are, and then you're going to have to decide whether you want to stand up for it or not. There's nothing else anybody can do for you.
I remember you mentioned that we're in a short period of time where we can do something about it um,
So that's right,
before it's
and it's
too
running.
late.
It's running. I put a letter out about almost a year ago now about the shortness of the time. In fact, I even posted it on the what's that Trump channel, Truth Social.
Truth Social or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, I posted it on there quite a while ago. That's my handle on Truth Social is Taskmaster2323 in case anybody wants to go look because there's a ton of stuff I put over on that for the last 3 years, 4 years. But there's a lot more. You know, my library is voluminous. Uh, Most of it's on computer, disk, but I got file cabinets full. So this was not a haphazard event for me. This was a life's work, and all for the right reason. Because I'm looking forward to being able to come back at my leisure to do what the universe wants me to do for the universe and enjoy it at the same time. And that's what this is all about, guys. You know, that's a let's just call it that's rounding third base, heading to home. You get home, man, you're in the clear, and you'll find yourself you'll have assignments you can't even imagine, and they'll be insane, and yet they'll be amazing, and you'll have nothing but enjoyment doing them because you'll be waking other people up all the time. And you are vehicles, every one of you. You can't get away from that. No matter how many lifetimes it takes you to get through all of these little lower pieces and get a handle on who and what you really truly are in life, um, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. You can't avoid life. The more you try, the more you just get turned around and kicked in the pants and say, get back in there. You ain't through yet. The fight's not over.
So, what determines the period of time that we're talking about?
The universe.
Oh, the universe does. Okay. What
Heck,
are some events that would possibly
there's
define it?
there are so many events going on right now that it doesn't matter. It's where each person's at. If you want to sit around and wait for something to give you information about what you really don't want to do or what you wish could happen, you're just wasting valuable time. And that's where most people are. They're not interested in this stuff. What I'm telling you guys, it's too hard. It takes too much time, too much focus, and it's painful sometimes. I put my finger on so many things that I had to deal with. It's like, oh man. And people say, how did you do that? I did because I had no choice. You don't get it. And I'll give you a really good example. There was a movie here with Sylvester Stallone where he was a forest ranger, and him and his buddy took his girlfriend. They went up on a mountain, climbed up on this rock, and they got stuck up there. And Steve Sylvester, he got called, and they flew up there in a helicopter, and they landed. And he threw a cable across, and they're working on getting over there. And the guy who had hurt himself, he grabbed a hold of the cable, and he worked his way over and got to the other side. Well, next it was time for his lady friend to do it, and she got out there on that cable, and she's pulling herself over, and she gets a little ways out, and all of a sudden, her glove or something started slipping, and first thing's out of her mouth, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die." And I'm like, "Huh, yeah, you're gonna die, all right." And she kept yelling and hollering, and I'm slipping, I'm gonna die. Oh, don't let me fall. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. And then, of course, she fell. And all I could do is look at the event and say, yeah, this is typical of the average person who finds himself in a difficult situation. Instead of saying, I can do it and keep moving, they quit. They give up. The fear takes over and they let go and fall to their next incarnation. Now, if that sounds like some kind of a really crazy idea, well, that's exactly how life is. And so for people that can't get their heads wrapped around where they are right now and what their job might be and the events that's unfolding and what the missions are that they may have agreed to take part in, this is a very powerful time. And this age we're in, this 5D we're moving into, this ain't the first time this has happened. This golden age, it's come around so many times, you guys, you can't even imagine how many times this has happened. But here we are, and there's some of us that know, and some of us are trying to figure it out, and a whole lot more than that don't know and aren't even interested. So if you're getting any piece of this, just consider yourself as having blessed yourself to be here in this time, and maybe being willing to take a step towards something that's going to help you grow right out of this mess that everybody's looking at and wondering, when's he going to quit?
Well, I can say for myself that it is a hard thing to even think about doing, but I do see the fact that I would grow a lot if I did it. I'm sure of it.
You're growing whether you like it or not.
Yeah, just being here, I'm growing absolutely.
That's
But if
right.
I did take that
Absolutely.
step that you're talking about, that would definitely help me to grow for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I
And the
have
timing
several of
is
those steps
everything.
I need
So,
to do.
yep. Well, it's only too late when it's too late. So, procrastination is your worst enemy.
I unfortunately have been one of those for a long time, since I was born, I think.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Unfortunately. Oh,
No, that's the nature of it. Hard
yeah,
stuff,
it is.
necessary.
It's who it's been part of me ever since I was born, for sure. Procrastination,
Yep. Yep.
homework.
Yep.
When I was going to school, I can remember procrastinating forever till the
Uh huh.
last minute.
And all that is just the uncertainty of the step. Not knowing is what keeps you from taking it.
Hmm.
So it's the fear that holds you back. That's what it is. It's not procrastinating. It's fear.
It probably is. Still, it was things I knew I had to do, but yet I procrastinated, or like you said, I was fearful of
Uh
even
huh.
doing them.
That's right. So you're your own worst enemy. We all are. That's
Yep,
that's the whole nature of it.
yep.
You bet. All right. Well, I gotta.
Well, I'm going to ask again: is there anyone that has any questions over anything that has been talked about tonight, or any questions that you have on anything that has to do with your sovereignty, or changing your status? Are there any questions at all? All you have to do is hit the unmute button, and it's that big one down in the bottom. At least I'm on my computer. It's a big button on the bottom that has an X through a microphone. You just click on that, and it will unmute you, and you can speak.
Well, I think it's been an hour and a half. Pretty good call, and a lot of good information. And I think anybody with questions, they can always text us in the Constitution Intelligence Room, or just um, in the public chats. But
We usually get around. We usually get around to answering questions. If they're pertinent. I got a couple of people that I'm dealing with now. Privately, and even though some of the things that people are trying to do aren't necessarily easily acquired, um, because of the situations, but that doesn't mean everybody's in that situation. So, there's no question that you might have to get an answer to that might be pertinent to where you are, what you're specifically dealing with, a particular agency that you're trying to address, or a right that you're, being violated, or who you might want to talk to see if there's a remedy. Because see, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been looking for the enforcement powers to this system for a very long time. And until Trump came on, I saw no remedy. It was like, you're beating, this is an uphill battle all the way. Well, at least with the military now, that I've been given certain information about, um, that's where we're about to see the remedies that have been looking at us for a very long time. And of course, the frequencies, the 3-5D transition and stuff is a big piece of this. And there's a lot of people that have been definitely on the wrong side of life that are going to be dealing with the consequences for the things they've been doing. And it's going to have nothing to do with any of us personally. It's things of their own making. So these doors are about to come open, and when they do, depending upon where you might be in your walk, you may be getting some release and relief and some more assignments to help other people deal with the situation as it's now beginning to unfold. And you can only imagine living in an environment where everybody respects everybody, everybody has integrity, everybody has compassion, nobody harms anybody because it's not in them. You can't hurt somebody when you don't have that need to hurt somebody in you. And you all look at everybody on an equal footing. So that's kind of where we're headed right now. And for those that are on board with this, hey, all I can say is welcome aboard. And the ones that didn't quite make it, well, you give it a good shot, maybe next time. So we'll see how this thing works out. And I'm not the guy that's going to say you yes and you no. That's not my job. So.
Well, I think that, do you have any other closing remarks you want to make tonight, Mason?
I don't know. I think that was pretty much it.
Yeah, those were good closing remarks, definitely. Okay, well, I think we're going to go ahead and close the call down then. And like Low Tide said, if you have any questions or any comments that you want to make, you can post in the room, and
Yep.
you can address questions to Mason, or to Salty, or to myself, and we'll try to help you any way we can. And Mason has a lot more answers than most of us do. So anyway, we will close down, and we appreciate everyone for being here tonight. And we ask you to come join us again next Friday night. We're going to try to have a call every Friday night, and we have been. And you can, this is recorded. You can re-listen to this call, and it will be up on our YouTube channel. And we will leave a link to that in this room so that you can find them. And so we will go ahead and close this call out, and we appreciate all of you, and have a blessed week until we meet again next week. Good night, everyone. Thank you, Mason,
Yes.
so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Good
thank
night.
you.